Two suspicious fires, 10 years apart, with the same man being found dead in the ashes of both infernos. This case remains shrouded in mystery, and what truly happened to the man in question is widely discussed. Did he manage to pull off the impossible and fake his own death for financial gain, or did something even more strange occur? Clarence Joseph Roberts was born on the 5th of March 1918 in Nashville, Brown County, Indiana, USA, and was the fifth-born child of Joseph Roberts, a farmer, and his wife, Frances Josephine Hardin. In total, the couple had 7 children: Vernice, Dolly, James, Dale, Clarence, Carson, and Warren. Clarence's father, Joseph, had been previously married to a woman named Nancy Eunice Crouch, and they also had 5 children together: Golda, Ora, Basil, George, and William. Joseph also allegedly had another child called Eva, although who her mother was is unclear. Clarence served with the US Army during World War II, and even became the county sheriff in 1950. He first married a woman named Velma Seitz, before marrying a second time to Geneva Faye White, the youngest child of James White and Laura David. Clarence and Geneva went on to have a son in 1941 named Bernard. Both Clarence and Geneva were well liked, and they themselves didn't have any problems. As far as anyone could see, the couple deeply loved one another, and they adored their child. By all accounts, they seemed like a normal family with a respectable background. By October of 1970, 52-year-old Clarence and his brother Carson ran a hardware store in their hometown of Nashville, Indiana. The store was quite successful, with both brothers working extremely hard to keep the business in good shape. However, Clarence adored the lavish lifestyle, something which his income from the hardware store didn't suffice. Clarence owned a large house and even had 3 expensive cars, but these assets resulted in crippling debt for the Roberts family. Eventually, the time came when their debts caught up with them, and as a result, Clarence had to sell the hardware store. He used the capital to invest in grain elevation and an apartment complex. However, both estate opportunities crumbled. After failing to redeem his financial situation, the sheriff at the time, who also happened to be one of his brothers, was forced to repossess Clarence's luxury cars. By this point, Clarence and his wife, Geneva, had almost nothing. They were left desperate and in a very bleak situation as a result of their financial ruin. On November the 18th, 1970, a mere month later, a fire broke out in a barn belonging to the Roberts. Local volunteer firemen went out to battle the inferno. However, after extinguishing the flames, they found the charred remains of a man in amongst the ashes, burned beyond recognition. Their arms and legs were missing, and a shotgun was lying across the corpse's chest. It appeared that the man had taken his own life before the fire broke out. However, the medical examiner who carried out the post-mortem could not find any sort of gunshot wound to the male victim, therefore did not sign his case off as a suicide. Interestingly, firefighters stated at the time that the flames got so hot that it had completely incinerated his limbs. However, found underneath the remains at the site of the fire was a golden Masonic ring, presumably belonging to the man, engraved with the name Clarence Roberts. Many questions arose, leaving authorities scratching their heads. How did the ring survive such extraordinary heat when the man's limbs did not? And was this man actually Clarence Roberts? Rumour had it that Clarence had spoken to an acquaintance prior to the fire and told them he was feeling suicidal. He was seen crying and even reportedly told this individual that his suicide would be the catalyst in, quote, making his wife the richest widow in Brown County. But was this simply a ruse? The remains were subsequently examined by the Indiana State Police, who compared the deceased man's dentals to Clarence Roberts. However, they were not a match. Blood samples were also taken, which revealed the blood type of the corpse to be AB, and following comparisons to Clarence's family, it was deemed as not a match. Also of note, the medical examiner found, quote, butchering marks on the man's bones, which indicated that his limbs had been forcefully removed. There was no chance that the limbs were simply incinerated. Authorities concluded that the man simply could not have been Clarence Roberts. Therefore, they buried the unidentified male in an unmarked grave. But the question remains, who was he? Following the bizarre fire, rumours circulated that Clarence had faked his own death due to his financial woes. It came to light that he had in recent months purchased a $1 million life insurance policy, which listed Geneva as the sole beneficiary, though due to the suspicious nature of the fire, the police did not pay out, leaving Geneva working as a dishwasher to make ends meet. Police carried out weeks of extensive surveillance on Geneva, believing her to be in cahoots with her missing husband, but their efforts proved to be fruitless. A number of strange things were reported to the police, however. Shopkeepers saw Geneva buy large quantities of beer, something she could not drink because of diabetes. Many believed that someone else was living in the house, maybe a new lover, or even her missing husband, though this was never proven. A reporter who befriended Geneva was never allowed into the home, something which does seem rather strange unless she was hiding something. Over the years that followed, Geneva appealed to the courts in order to determine whether her husband was declared legally dead or alive, in a bid to receive the life insurance payout. However, at the appeal trial in October of 1980, the forensic evidence which was presented, including the dental records and blood samples which were not a match to her husband, proved beyond reasonable doubt that the man in question was not Clarence Roberts. Further evidence also presented to the court proved that the fire was deliberately set by someone and was therefore not an accident. A number of witnesses came forward during the trial and even testified that they had seen Clarence since his supposed death, mainly involving a strange man seen lurking outside of Geneva's home on numerous occasions. Some believed the man to be a possible new boyfriend of Geneva's, however she denied this. This fueled even more speculation that the man seen outside Geneva's home may have in fact been Clarence. Others claimed to have seen Clarence just 2 nights prior to the fire with a vagrant at a tavern in nearby Morgantown. It was alleged that Clarence bought the homeless man dinner and offered him work at the Roberts home doing odd jobs. However, a short time later, the homeless man started to feel unwell and collapsed. Clarence told other pubgoers that he would take the man to a doctor. However, there was no such record of this homeless man being treated by a doctor in Brown County on the night in question. Clarence was a proud man and desperate for his debts to disappear. Perhaps this was a situation where desperate times called for desperate measures. Did he somehow lure the homeless man, who was clearly in an unfit state, into a remote location before murdering him, removing his limbs, placing his remains in the barn before setting the building alight in order to fake his own death? It is certainly the most likely possibility. As a result of all the evidence presented, the judge concluded at the appeal that there was insufficient evidence to prove that Clarence Roberts was deceased. Therefore, he was declared legally alive, though his reputation was now completely tarnished. Geneva continued to appeal the verdict numerous times, however she continuously got denied. Eerily, history then repeated itself when a decade later, on November the 29th, 1980, 1 month after the appeal trial which declared Clarence Roberts alive, another fire ripped through the residence where Geneva Roberts resided. 2 bodies were found within the ashes, a male and a female, identified as the property's tenant Geneva Roberts and Clarence Roberts, a man who had seemingly been dead for over a decade by this time. Pathologists firmly believed the man to be Clarence this time round, but others were sceptical. According to one source, even other family members believed the man was not him. It was later confirmed, however, through dental records and x-rays that this man was indeed Clarence Roberts. The relatives of Clarence did not claim his body, however, as they firmly believed that he didn't die in the 1980 fire. Therefore, the John Doe from the 1970 fire was buried alongside Geneva under the name of Clarence Roberts in Greenlawn Cemetery, though for some strange reason his death year is listed as 1980. We know for certain, though, that this individual is not Clarence. In 1975, he was indicted for abduction and murder in regards to the homeless man, who to this day has never been identified. Investigators determined the second fire to be arson, and that possibly turpentine was the fuel accelerant. The grand jury concluded during the inquest that Geneva had been murdered, and that Clarence had accidentally died while setting the home alight, either passing out from smoke inhalation or from alcohol intoxication. But what truly happened leading up to, during, and following both fires remains a mystery. There are endless theories in this particular case, though the faking death for life insurance theory does seem the most probable. In regards to the second fire, some believe Clarence returned to his wife following a decade in hiding, but discovered a new lover and killed them both in a jealous rage. Another theory explores the possibility that Clarence and Geneva committed suicide in order to give their life insurance money to their remaining children. There is, of course, the possibility that this arson attack was completely unrelated to the first fire and that an unknown party could have been involved, though due to the suspicious nature of this case as a whole, this seems less likely. What truly happened during both fires? Did Clarence actually fake his death in order to salvage his financial situation? Did Geneva manage to harbour her husband for over a decade? If not, where was Clarence during this time frame? How did he get by? Did he murder a drifter before faking his own death, only for karma to finally catch up with him 10 years later? Or did he miraculously pull off the impossible and fake his death twice?